Hello and welcome to the award-winning Next 2.0 with me, Marcus Atkinson, where we are committed to representing the public's voice, opinions, and concerns. Black Access Media produces this show. Working hard behind the scenes to make this episode possible is Aaron Cronin, and I am here with my co-hosts, both Marc Blount and Chuck Cammarata. Thank you both for joining me today. Now, if you want to know more about Next 2.0, you can go to Facebook and like the page. You can also follow us on Instagram at Next 2.0 Erie. There you can keep up with upcoming show promos, events, and clips about what's next for our communities and our democracy. Thank you so much for tuning in. Unless you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, you know that Election Day just passed. And I can't speak for whatever city you're from, but here in Erie, Pennsylvania, it was dramatic to say the least. The campaign that really caught a lot of people's attention, though, was the county executive's race. And according to Erie Times News, by 11 p.m., Vogel led Davis by a roughly 19,000 vote margin with 100% of the precincts reporting. So unofficial results showed that Vogel had a 47,363 one-vote lead, or about 62.3% of the total votes, compared to Davis's 28,513 votes, or 37.5%. This, according to the Erie County Elections and Voter Registration Office. And so, gentlemen, I believe this is when our grandfathers would say someone got taken out to the woodshed. This was a good old-fashioned whooping. Now, there's other election results that we'll talk about, but we'll start there. What did you all think when you saw the election and the results of not just this race, but all the races in particular?
Nationally, it was pretty stunning.
I think it shows the impact. If we look across it, I think the impact of, I believe, women voters, once we do the dissect of this thing. And I think messaging matters. I think we saw candidates that really put out the work to go earn votes. And I got to commend those campaigns that won, or Ms. Vogel's campaign, because she really worked. She hit the ground and she was talking to the people. But I believe people discount her as not being there prior to. People knew who she was. And I think they wrote that part of it out, and the way that she came off, or the way that people view her, they view her as one of them. And they view her as not messy. I think we had a messy executive county exec, and I think they got tired of that type of thing, and they showed it at the polls.
Do you think any of it had to do with there being such a wave across the country in reaction to some of the things that are going on with Trump and MAGA and with Davis being sort of a bullyish kind of guy?
Sort of to it.
Yeah, and so he fit into the category of being a Trump person. Mm-hmm. Was there backlash against Trump that you think?
Absolutely. But see, this to me is the caveat when you decide that this is the model that I want to imitate, right? Mm-hmm. No matter what that model is, you oftentimes find a similar reaction to whatever that thing is. Take Josh Shapiro. It's been noticed that he sounds like, the cadence of his speaking sounds like and feels like Barack Obama. I think he knows that.
So does James Tallarico, if you ever watch him.
Okay. I think he knows that. And so it evokes the same type of feeling that Obama does when he's speaking, right? And so you have to be conscious of that. I think that Brenton Davis knew full well that he was doing his best Trump impersonation. He was tearing pages out of that book at a furious pace. And unfortunately, and I don't know how, but unfortunately, he sorely underestimated just how much people get exhausted from fighting and nitpicking and chest beating and saber rattling. And, you know, it may be cute the first time or two and you get all these breaking news stories, but after a minute or two, especially when it's our money being used, this man was getting paid six figures of our money to cause problems for the same people that are contributing to the six figures.
But there's a lot of writing out there right now about the fact that there are people who just thrive on that kind of conflict. And so when he was in here, when we interviewed him, he had just been interviewed by the newspaper, and they had asked him about his bombastic, confrontational style, and he just rationalized that it was a good thing. That's just the way you got to do things to get things done in this society. And politics is broken today. And there was no sense in him at all that this was a destructive way of relating to other people, and that you can't do that long term and build teams and community. And so I think he just didn't get it. I don't think they get it at the top either.
Yeah, I'll throw it back to Mark here, but before I do that, I'm listening to national news, and I heard someone on CNN say that about this government shutdown, and he was a Republican. He said, the Democrats need to get the government back open, and there's all of these people who can't eat and they don't have benefits, and this is just mean-spirited. And America's tired of this mean-spirited environment. I'm like, are you listening to yourself? These people you are so tone deaf to the fact that you are completely toeing the line and capitulating to this dictatorial leader that you now try to say the very same things that you should be applying to that person. So to your point about this is what you got to do. Well, says who?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because you bought it, and then I'll go to you, Mark, just because you bought into this, just because the Trump shtick plays into something that and resonates deep within your soul, and you say, yeah, you may incite people for 5 or 10 minutes, but it's almost like the civil rights movement and the nonviolence movement that King got from Gandhi. If you can just hold and allow it to play out long enough for the conscience of the onlookers to bubble up, people are going to say, wait a minute, I'm not okay with this after all. I thought I wanted to see the confrontation. This has just gotten carried away. Mark, what are your thoughts?
I'm looking at it as we go. I'm thinking Republicans have seemed to hang their hat on fear, and there was nothing that you can kind of drum up fear about in this election. And so you took one of their biggest. If you're not scared, if you don't have a they or them that you're against, you can't rabble rouse your base. It seems like they don't have ideas. They ran out of ideas, and I think they do, but I think that they don't present those no more. They went with the low hanging fruit, and they try to evoke emotions or fear, and they prey off of that. And I think in the end, it's going to hurt their party. Because it's a shame that they feel like you have to operate that way. It's the immigrants. It's DEI. It's whatever. So when you take that out of play, who are you and where are you going to lead this country to? Because that's not affecting the price of eggs. That's not affecting the price of milk. And that's not paying the healthcare bills that you keep passing the buck. You keep saying healthcare. For instance, you wanted to get rid of, quote unquote, Obamacare. And you never came up with a plan with it to replace it. You have no idea of what to do.
You just know what you didn't want.
Knew what you didn't want
to
raise fear. And the fear was socialism, which is going to come later on in the election about the idea of socialism and what have you, because they tried to play that card again. And that was in New York, not here. But it seemed like Davis couldn't create a boogeyman per se with this one. So did his base not respond because of that? They're looking for that.
He was massively overconfident.
Absolutely. And let me seize on what Mark said. In America, if you're listening, he talks about the boogeyman. You're absolutely right. And I'm listening to ads for that as well. Even Trump did it. They voted in the socialist. We have to stop this. All of these people are all on television talking about this thing is bad for America. We must stop this. And once again, I'm pulling what little bit of gray hair out that I have, and I'm saying, this is unbelievable. These are the speeches they should be giving about you.
And I got to add, you're getting really good at doing that.
You are more work on the hand stuff, and you might have.
Of course, I'm working on it, Chuck. I'm working on it. But it's absolutely maddening. So, Mark, I mean, to your point, I believe it makes it just that much harder to create a boogeyman out of these things because it is so duplicitous that it's embarrassing. But let me finish with a couple of points on this Vogel and Davis campaign before we go on to national, because it's like the last time Davis ran against Tyler Titus, Davis got 34,616 votes. That was during the 2021 election. This time, her 47,361 votes even eclipsed that vote total, which tells me there were a lot of people that colored in that little black oval for Davis once upon a time who came in this time and said, I can't do it again. That was obvious. And then lastly, like we brought up to Kathy Dahlkemper, and I'll let you run with it. It said Vogel's campaign raised $221,458 in cash, $458 in cash, with an additional $30,000 coming in the days afterwards. And by contrast, the Davis campaign was roughly $39,000 during the same period. This from a woman with zero political background. That is worth repeating. Zero political background. Correct.
So the question for me becomes, we voting for or against people? And I think in this
good question.
And I think that same thing applied to the first election that Davis was in. He's overconfident in this one, but he didn't take into account why people voted for him the first time. Tyler Titus is a transgender person. People voted against him for that reason. It's Kamala, it's Hillary, it's Tyler. He got lucky the first time. And so this time he got his comeuppance.
However, I think both showed up. Both cases kind of showed up. That wasn't as big as publicly an issue, but I think it showed up at the poll. I think Democrats couldn't wrap around, a lot of us could not wrap around that issue. That's the elephant in the room. That's where I was getting ready to go.
Yeah.
With this candidate, this Democratic candidate, we all were all in. With the other candidate, we wasn't necessarily all in, and that might have been one of the reasons, and Davis misread that.
Yeah.
You wasn't going against him now.
Yeah.
And you couldn't silently create a boogeyman.
Yep.
And I don't care who you love, what you do. I want to make that clear. Right. But that is there. That's a reality in politics.
Absolutely.
I believe it cost Kamala the election in PA.
I agree.
As far as when they went there with that issue, that kind of, it's like the abortion issue with some people. It kind of starts, you kind of start splitting parties right there. You got some women that are Republicans, they are pro-life. You got some Democrats, Casey, that are pro-life or pro-choice or what have you, and it split the party. Well, the last candidate, I believe, split the party a little bit. And it gave the other side a cultural or a, lack of a better word, a moral obligation to say no.
Yeah.
And they showed up. And that shows something. But however, I say that's progress on some aspect because that didn't really hinder him that much as I thought it would, for him to be that pioneer of a candidate. Because we never had that before. Yeah. And so how you brought it up, I thought that was a good,
that's the way you break the barriers. You got to go out there and fail a few times. And so that's kind of.
Because right now, we don't even blink an eye when we say a woman is running.
Yeah. Well, but we locally we elect them. We don't elect them nationally.
Well, this is true because locally, if you are a part of, as they say back in Old Little Rascals, a part of the He-Man Woman Haters Club, this is not the city to live in right now because it is a huge women's power movement going on in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Darya and Christina are both new in their positions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think there's going to be a neat coalition formed there that can do really good for Erie.
Well, Darya pulled a Mike Tyson. You know, you go get a beer and 36 seconds later the fight is over. It really wasn't a whole lot of a fight there. Darya kind of steamrolled the situation, and people expected that, but she stayed even-tempered through it because, to her point, you want to make sure that you are measured. You don't want to be overconfident, and she wasn't until it was actually declared. Yeah. To the day, I mean, literally until that moment, she was like, listen, we are in this for the fight. But when you look around, you've got that, and then I love the fact that you've got Kathy Dahlkemper, who obviously is one of the primary engines behind Vogel, right? One of the primary engines behind Kylie Morris.
Yeah, and Judy Lynch was part of this too.
Who wins in Mill Creek. Then when you look across city and you look at all of the key positions, I was at a community town hall and they named all of these organizations. And by no coincidence, a lot of these organizations are led by women. The Community Foundation, women. Build CDC, Laura Gunshin now, women. And you've got Infinite Erie, Kim Thomas, and the list goes on and on and on. So it is a new day.
It is.
In Erie, Pennsylvania when it comes to politics.
I've been saying this for a long time about Erie, and anecdotally, because my experience is not necessarily in the political realm, but I have been watching young women rise up in leadership positions all over this city and do amazing things. And I think Erie might be pioneering breaking down some glass ceilings, showing what women can do.
Emily Moscow-Mursky would talk about the judges' race.
Yeah.
41,888 votes versus Jeremy Leitner's 33,635.
Yeah.
And she pulls that out. Christine Rush. Mark, I know this is one that for you and for myself, there's a lot of history with the Rush family, especially in the African-American community. To see her in this role, talk about the significance of that for magisterial district judge.
I think that it's a beautiful story once you know the story. It's a good testimony of someone, she wasn't a single mother, but at certain times of her life she was. She took the test several times, and she didn't quit. She overcame whatever obstacles that she had, and she did it the right way. She could have quit after she didn't pass the test 2 or 3 times, but she wouldn't quit. And she did the groundwork, the legwork, the studying, and all that what came with becoming this judge. She did it. And the organizations and the community that came out to back her. I think we're getting sophisticated enough to understand campaigns cost money. And she raised some good money for that. Her on the ground game was good, or our on the ground game was good. And I say that across the board with some of these campaigns. The ones that really hit the ground, they were organized, knocking on doors, calling relentlessly, and they won. And they showed that. And as Gary Horton would say, when we vote, we win. That's it. That's the bottom line. And yet we still could do better, because here's the thing: there is still some precincts or districts or whatever we want to call it. It is shameful of what is going on as far as the turnout, because you have to understand this. We're at a time, and I want to tie it because you're going to hit the national, and that's the backdrop of this. We are killing people on a ship, and we're having a trial, a sentence of death for some individuals that's out there in a boat in Argentina or wherever they're at. And we're watching this, and there's no outrage, man. I mean, like, we don't know. Why can't we capture them, try them, and make sure it was drugs in the boat?
Absolutely.
Or what have you. I mean, these are the type of things. SNAP, I mean, like how we were talking about SNAP being, and we have a say. Elections matter. And this is how we got in this jam. And we go all the way back to Hillary, where people got intellectual and they was like, didn't see this coming. And we said, no, this is coming. And maybe we didn't articulate it enough. Maybe it was part of our fault. But these are results of elections. We got Brenton Davis because of elections. And so we also got some of these positive women role models through elections, from Judy Lynch to Mayor Savacchio. And because of them, these ladies of our community, there is no hesitation whatsoever about running. And they feel they're accepted, and they are accepted, and they win. And so, again, elections matter. Christine is a great person. She did the work prior to going there. She grew up in the community. And to see her now, where she grew up, become a district justice in that area, it gives the message to people there that you could be anything that you want to be. You just have to put in the work. It doesn't say you won't have obstacles. It doesn't say you won't meet adversity. It just say put in the work, try. And she did it. And congratulations, Chrissy. I'm proud of you.
I have a quick comment and a question for you two about that kind of grows out of that. So I've known Chris. What's her first name? Christine.
Right.
What would you want to call her? Christy. Christine, just since we interviewed her previously, about 3 months ago. But I sat with her after we did the interviews. We just chatted. And so here's my take. This is not just a person who works hard and who has the talent and the ability to connect with people. This is a person who has a heart, who's compassionate. Yeah. And that matters to me. I want people with hearts. I look at what's happened around the country, and I don't see that. I see people who seem to revel in cruelty. Having this great Gatsby party at the White House or in Mar-a-Lago while people around America are losing all their benefits.
Let them eat cake.
Yeah, let them eat cake. It comes across that way. And somebody said, that's not because Trump's tone deaf. This is his intention.
Yeah.
Cruelty is the point.
That's the point.
So does it matter, do you think, that we elect people who are compassionate? Does character and morality matter? Because we used to say it does. And the very people who elected Trump used to be the people who were biggest on it.
Exactly.
The right-wing evangelical church. Does it matter?
I mean, I'll start with that one. I think once upon a time when it comes to Trump and Trumpism, for a moment in time, and it's still bleeding over into this moment right now, his bombastic style, his many, many isms played to the lower angels of far too many Americans. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of Americans are figuring out what it looks like when you are dealing with someone who takes that to the nth degree, and then you start to figure out, whoa. He's touched on some things that I happen to agree with. But now that I see what leadership looks like when you give unchecked power to that type of attitude, now all of a sudden I'm thinking, I don't know if I like this. It makes me think about that moment in the Charlie Kirk memorial, funeral, whatever you want to call it, when Charlie Kirk's widow says, because I believe in Jesus, powerful moment, mm-hmm. I forgive Charlie Shooter. I forgive our enemy. And he grabs the mic, see, this is where we're different. Charlie and I were different. I hate my enemies. I hate them. And in that moment, I asked myself, how foolish do, especially these religious leaders that pour all their hopes and dreams into this man, how foolish do you feel right now as he spits on your faith, the foundation of your faith, right? The bedrock of the whole Jesus persona, as he spits on it at this memorial, letting you know in no uncertain terms, I've never been about that. This is a political advantage to me, this whole Charlie Kirk thing. And so I think that to your point, to your question, in my opinion, I think America is getting a huge wake-up call, as Elon Musk did, mm-hmm. as Rudy Giuliani did, mm-hmm. and everybody else in his camp. It feels good for about 5 seconds when he's saying what you're thinking, until you realize that this type of cruelty, lack of empathy, and just hard-heartedness knows no limits or boundaries. And that is unsustainable. Mark, I'll let you chime in.
See, I want to stay focused on the election, because you touched on so many things that we could talk about Charlie Kirk. But I will say this about Charlie Kirk, since you brought him up. The one thing I heard, and it was interesting, how he's credited for his freedom of speech and how he thought, and his base says how honest he was, and he was such a real person, all like this. And then I heard a comedian or someone, Charleston White, who some people think is a black version of him, and he said, no, the difference with me is I go after people that look like me, and I talk about some of the ratchetness of that. He don't do that. He points to the other people that don't look like him and speaks on their thing, but you never hear him talk about supremacy.
No.
You never hear him talk about that, which has created, even if you don't believe in DEI, you do understand why it was needed at one point, whether mm-hmm. you feel it's needed or not. You never address the elephant in the room of supremacy. Trump doesn't do that.
No one does it.
He speaks, but any moment he could get,
mm-hmm.
he speaks. We had an accident that happened in D.C. where a tragic accident happened. A plane hits a helicopter. Everybody else is mourning, and this guy goes off the cuff and say, this is DEI. And I'm like, whoa.
Wasn't even a black pilot.
How did you take the opportunity to do that? So that's my point on that. But getting back to the election, I think also what Democrats have to understand, or parties, I think people are really looking for independent, common sense. And I also think they're tired of taxes. I also think, even with what happened in New York, don't misread what happened in New York. I think taxation is a problem. However, this candidate, when you hear him, he's talking about accountability with your money.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going after a section. He's not talking about taxing everybody. He's saying tax it fairly. However, the people that he's talking about taxing, they have the ability to fight back. The poor don't have to, no one advocates for the poor, really, to be honest with you, and middle class. The billionaires, I think it was like 20 something, held up Congress because they was going to go up 1%. They held it up. We don't have that ability because why? We don't donate to campaigns. Our political system has been bought. However, when that candidate can connect to its base and has a message, there's hope in that message. I think Barack was one of those. I think Ross Perot kind of did it. I think Jesse Ventura did it. I think we could go Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I think in a backwards way, Trump did it. However, he's doing it in a sinister way. Because some people, look, we don't want to argue about what bathrooms people go in. Mm-hmm. I really don't. Mm-hmm. However, I want to respect your right to be who you want to be. But I'm not getting into somebody playing a different sport and all like that type of thing. Trump goes into that. However, when he starts talking about no taxing on overtime and all that type of stuff, he's speaking to a folk that we have to acknowledge that is there. We have to acknowledge that. Barack did it at first. He's speaking to a folk, common sense. Clinton did it. Bill Clinton did it. To be reminded, we said, what do we want? Is it character or whatever? Hey, what came out of Clinton? It's the economy, stupid. Mm-hmm. It's the economy. People can't afford to live. Healthcare, that was Barack's thing. That was true. We feel that. We all have some elderly person. We're going to get sick, and we're going to go to the doctor, and you're going to get that bill. And one thing that we can do better than what we're doing in the richest country ever in the history of man, and you are worried about costs at a time when you're sick. You shouldn't have to worry about your mortgage and these bills, or your treatment outcomes shouldn't be based on how much money you have. When you go to the hospital, the first thing they want to know is, before your family history, really, where your card at?
Where's your card at?
Where your card at?
Pull that thing out first before we even go any further.
Before we know, are we going to just put bandages on you? Or are we going to deal with the problem?
Yeah, so Chuck, I mean, I'll let you speak into that, because when you look at this, is it Zoran Mamdani, the tough one to say. He's talking about he went healthcare, food, childcare. He's running on all of these things that just cost way too much money. And here's the argument that's being lost, especially right now on a national level, at a time where, let's go back to when Elon Musk was in the White House. You've got the richest guy on the planet in charge of who's getting what government money, and being able to have the power to say we need to cut this program because this is government waste. You have the biggest contracts in the U.S., in the United States right now, when it comes to subsidized U.S. Those kind of things just make it impossible for you to have any sort of moral high ground. And so to me, when you've got Mamdani who says over and over and over again, and he had very strict and very disciplined messaging, knew who he was talking to, it resonated, because people out here struggling. When you think about the poor, as Mark makes a good point, who's representing the voice of the poor? It goes back into the very same people that are behind Trump, pushing them out there, many of which wear crosses and stand behind pulpits, right? Mm-hmm. Is that getting checked at the door? How do you feel like that community is looking at all of this as it plays out across country, especially with the government shutdown, especially with SNAP benefits being at the forefront of everybody's news cycle?
Yeah, it's beginning to affect them. And so they're hearing the rhetoric in a different way. But who does Mamdani sound like? Sounds to me like Bernie.
Yes,
making a lot of the same points, talking about a lot of the same policies. Mm-hmm. And I think what Bernie has been saying for a long time is coming to resonate with some people, and that we are a society that caters to a very small percentage of the people who live in this society. Right. And that's one of the things that makes it easier for us to, what makes it easier for us to do that is that those people who are the top people, they've found ways to pit us against each other. Mm-hmm. So the guy who comes in the room who's worth $600 billion says to you and me, who are middle class, you know, them poor people, they're trying to take your money. Mm-hmm. That's not true at all. They just don't want to share their money. And it's amazing to me that we look at billionaires in this country and we fail to understand the numbers are immense, so they're incomprehensible in terms of understanding how much money that person actually has. But Trump he's showing us what this could be if we continue down this path. And maybe in that sense, doing us a favor. People are starting to listen. What do you guys think? This is just personal question for me. What do you think of Mike Johnson?
I mean, other than the fact that he's a puppet.
He's a duplicitous liar.
Yeah. and has no spine. But how many people does that apply to nowadays, though?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that applies across the board. He has filled his entire cabinet. Not that he appointed Mike Johnson, but he is surrounded by sycophants. This is the thing. And I'm prepared to come on air for, and I told you so once this time happens, because it will. All of these people, and the evidence is there, all of these people are committing political suicide. I mean, Pam Bondi, when this is all said and done, may not just be disbarred. There's a strong chance that she may be sitting in front of judges when it's all said and done.
I agree.
All of these people have a price to pay when it's all said and done. So Mike Johnson is one of many right now. I see you chomping at the bit over here, Mark.
No, because that's good. That was a good term, because look at what MTG is doing. She's pivoting now. She's pivoting from the Trump
Marjorie
thing,
Taylor
and
Greene.
maybe she sees something.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this guy getting ready to go.
And I don't want to go down with him.
Well, theoretically, because we don't know, we didn't see January 6th. And theoretically, by law, as we know law right today, because Supreme Court might change it on us, he can't run for a third term.
Right.
She's pivoting. She sees this. I don't want nothing to do with some of this. The Epstein file. You're not even dealing with the Epstein file. I'm letting this. I don't have nothing to do with it. With Mike Johnson, I think he thinks his bread is. He still has them thinking the bread is buttered with me. If you go against me, you won't even win your district anymore. So he's afraid. He's paralyzed by that. Whereas this one over here, MTG, she's like, no, right. I'm not. No, I got my district. This ain't right here, and she's turning, and so maybe not turn all the way where I think I need her to be, but I think you're starting to see some cracks that's saying this is going too far, especially when you start blowing up ships. Because imagine if that was happening to us. You're blowing up ships. You're putting a bounty. You have the CIA publicly putting bounties on people.
Yeah.
And you're not telling the American public, okay, if you say this is a national security, you're not even telling Congress, who's supposed to be the checks and balances, what you are doing and why, the rationale behind you killing these civilians over there in Venezuela or wherever, Brazil, wherever this is happening. So you're starting to see cracks. Rand Paul, I think his name, Ryan Paul, is starting to question, wait a minute, we can't keep this up.
No, you can't. You can't.
And then ultimately, the thing where he says, man, I do what I want. You tear the east side of the White House down.
You tear it down.
No one knows that you're doing it. And you just say, I can.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Barack would have did that?
Oh,
Right. I mean, Chuck, so what do we think about Mike Johnson? I mean, over my left shoulder is a painting of Colin Kaepernick, who risked a very lofty salary.
Yeah.
In order to make a statement about something that is just wrong. You may be sick of hearing about police brutality against unarmed black men, but it is a reality regardless of how you, America, or whomever else feels about it. He did that, and so he's in the situation that he's in now. He took a stand. I think about it just from a man's standpoint. I think about my sons and my daughters. How embarrassing it must be to cower publicly before another man that breathes the same air as you, that puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like you, over a political position. And I'm not saying this to be bombastic. This is not hyperbole. I'm too proud of a father to look my kids in the eye and say, Dad, you are literally licking this man's boots over a job?
Yeah.
This from the same crowd who once upon a time, I brought up Colin Kaepernick because, and I want you all to hear this clearly because I'm almost tired of saying it. This is the same party and the same demographic, conservative white America for the most part. It's about patriotism. It's about the Constitution, and you are disrespecting it. when you kneel during the anthem? How dare you? These same people watch people take a buzzsaw to the Constitution, watch people dismantle the Constitution, and yet they engage in the worst case of empretzelment in order to try to justify everything. Can you see how maddening all of this is? It is how embarrassing it must be if you are a traditional conservative right now. How embarrassed are you?
Yeah. Well, you're disowning the Republican
How
Party.
embarrassing is
Absolutely.
this?
Yeah.
And so it goes back to the local race, what was going on at the county level. Shame on you for being immature enough to think this was sustainable.
Exactly right. And that's the right word to use. There's a level of maturity that's just completely lacking.
Exactly.
Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, my
He's a
goodness.
teenage boy. Christy Nome. Oh, my gosh. Pam Bondi. You just go down the list. And then there was Matt Gaetz before that. And
Matt Gaetz was a joke.
I am not convinced that Marjorie Taylor Greene is really changing her stripes. I think she wanted to run for Senate.
But she is pivoting.
Trump said, no, I don't want you running for Senate. And she's pissed. So she's pivoting, but she's not changing her
make a good
stripes. And so whether she becomes something of a bulwark against Trumpism or not, I can't see it happening. But because she's all about herself as well. And that's what I'm asking. That's why I'm asking these questions. So Mike Johnson presents as a good Christian man, a Christian husband. He talks
which is
about
another joke.
He talks about his son and him having this covenant regarding pornography and blah, blah, blah. But then you cannot listen to the man without saying, that's all bald-faced lies. The man is not only not telling me the truth, but look, from where I sit, I can see going on in his head the slow but sure destruction of his conscience, the slow but sure draining away of his soul. And that's part of the problem. Trump is soulless, and he's making the people around, he's choosing people like him to participate with him, but he's making them that way as well.
The first law of nature, they say, and I'm going to apply it to politics, is survival. In his district, he must believe that he can't go against Trump. And we've all seen these guys kiss his ring. I mean, guys that he literally just made it's embarrassing how he talked about Marco Rubio.
Little Marco Rubio. You humiliate him into obeying you.
And they come back and they kiss the ring.
It's embarrassing.
And so I expect this from Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson knows, he saw the last Speaker of the House prior to when they had it, how it took, how many votes did it take to even get to him?
Yeah.
I know.
And so he kissed the ring to even have this power, right? He bent the knee.
Yes, he did.
And all these people are bending the knee, so it doesn't surprise me about how he acts, because we're living in this. Think about what Texas just did, how they gerrymandered their district to win. Now California responded back, and they did it in a blue way.
Yeah.
This is what we've become.
Yeah, it is.
And so your response is not for what's best for the country. It's what's best for me to win. And my base determines that.
California is a tricky situation. Let me put a button.
I agree.
That's a tricky situation. Let me put a button on what you said about just the overall idea of the soul of a man or a woman or the character of a person. This is one of the reasons why the mayor, if you're listening, the sitting mayor of Erie, Pennsylvania, Joe Schimber, I'm going to contact Mayor Schimber to do a farewell interview, because usually it's obviously we want to speak to Darya Devlin. And I think Darya would even agree with me. I think all of Erie owes a debt of gratitude to Joe Schimber just for being a good man.
Absolutely right.
Definitely.
Just for being a good man in that seat.
Yeah.
We need more of that.
Yeah.
And so I do want to bring Mayor Schimber on just to say thank you for being that at a time where everybody is assuming that they need to be the opposite of that in order to progress politically.
I agree.
Your thoughts on California, because Mark, I'm with you. I hear what you're saying, but I'm the guy on the sideline. Like when somebody tosses the guy in a fight a chain and he's swinging a chain at the guy, I'm like, get the other guy a chain. Absolutely. We are no longer fighting fair. Putting your dukes up won't work anymore. This guy has a bike chain.
Yeah.
you get one too.
Yeah,
or a pipe or whatever else.
I think the fact that 65% of Californians voted to make this change, to gerrymander their state as well. But also that the legislation in California reads that this is a temporary measure. This is not who we want to be.
Absolutely.
But in order to not become a dictatorship and have to everybody bow,
We'll allow it.
we're going to do this in the short term.
Yeah.
Whether or not we're able to go back from it after that or not, I don't know. But it seems to me like this is a case where you need to arm yourself to fight this particular battle.
Yeah.
And what issues from it, I don't know. Yeah. But I think when people start jettisoning, and I'm not saying character is the only qualification for being a legislator or being in power. I am saying that there's got to be some baseline. There's got to be some ability to be honest and compassionate and to care about the greater good than just for yourself.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. And then we can talk about policy.
Right.
But that's been lost. This party has lost that. And for 60 years now, since Lee Atwater and Grover Norquist and those folks, Newt Gingrich, they made the decision as a party to care only about one thing, winning. And so they did everything they could to thwart Obama's very good ideas, very popular ideas, because it was about winning. And they need to be in power. And that's all that they care about.
Let me bring that back to local politics again. And, I want to be clear about this. The Democrats are not off the hook. What we see the Republicans allowing on a galactic level is unprecedented. It's historical in all the wrong ways, but the Dems are not off the hook. And when I look at even from a local standpoint, and I've said it before, and listen, if you're a part of the Democratic Party in Erie, if you're sitting in office in Erie and you hear this, or if you hear it from someone, so I'm very interested to see what this looks like as you see all of these active women coming into office. I say active because the women that I named earlier are all over the place trying to hear and see what's going on in community. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
We got a handful of politicians still in Erie that they got these seats. I don't know what in the hell they're doing with them, though. We have one too many politicians in Erie, and I am someone who is doing everything he can to improve Erie in my day-to-day operations. And I know politicians that have not stepped foot in the territory that we call home as we're trying to make Erie better. And so we got to figure that out. We do have this issue of I want the position for the sake of having the position.
Yeah.
And I'll pivot to city council because I know that we had all the elections there. Andre Horton is coming on. That's going to be exciting because he brings a huge amount of experience to the table. City council, county council. I mean, that's been the knock on far too many candidates. Like, where are y'all? We got to come to city council and to the chambers to see you, especially city council, because you're at large. You don't have a district. You don't have a ward. How are people looking for you when they're out here doing the work? Mark, speak to the local elections.
I would hope this. Anybody in politics today, I would say I would pivot my message and stop talking about what we can't do and start envisioning and creating the vision of what we can do and hit those potentials, change your messaging a little bit. And I think that's what New York's mayor captured. He gave him a picture of what you could label it, and those labels don't work anymore. As far as it might strike fear, socialism or what have you, because when we hear those, I think we're a little bit more intelligent than what people think. When you throw that socialism out there, understand a public school system could be labeled socialism.
Absolutely.
Understand social security could be
socialism.
And they want to get rid of those.
There we go. Understand the post office. These things that have become such an intricate part of our infrastructure that we love and we don't want to give it away.
Absolutely.
You're not going to make those the boogeyman. So maybe telling people that we need a mixture. You need a safety net. And we could do this. And we could do it the right way. In my opinion, I would hope in Erie County, those that won can figure out a way. One of my pet peeves or one of my visions for Erie County that I think I impact or can help. We are in one of the most poorest districts in the country. We know with poverty, if we're in a real battle with poverty, that education is one of the key weapons to fight that. There is no way, and it's sinful that we don't have pre-K on a level paid for by, and it's not a crazy idea. I don't have to wait on the state. We have the resources here in the county of Erie, in the city of Erie, to make pre-K possible. What does that do? One, before we could start talking about community college, we have to get kids to that point. Yeah. If you all knew the dropout rate, you would be shamed right now.
My daughter teaches at Erie. We know.
You would be shamed. It would be a tragedy. We have to get them there. So how do you get them there? You invest in early education. Because now, not only do we got to fight the quote unquote, as some people would know, the Chinese and immigrants or whatever, these people, the battle is coming with AI.
Oh my God, yes.
The battle is coming with AI, and that's a whole nother show. I get it.
Is.
However, we have to equip these young people with knowledge, and they're ready now. I have a little grandson. I'm proud of him. He's like 3.
Handsome little guy. I love the picture.
He's speaking like a
Mark.
second grader.
Yeah.
He's speaking and doing the things that I was doing in the second grade. And the only thing that was holding him back was the access to this. And he got it now in Pittsburgh, and we pay for it. But however, I think as a community, these are one of the things that we can invest to. And we should be saying, I don't know if it was Edward Kennedy or Robert Kennedy. It's not. Why not? It's why. Why can't we?
Yeah.
He said it better than I said it.
Well, and you're talking about Erie, though. This goes to the point that you were making. We've had Democratic leadership in Erie for a long time, and we're not getting these things done. So AOC said something like this. She said, you look at the situation right now, and you know that we have to stop this. We have to get rid of this craziness. One of the reasons we have this craziness is we didn't do our jobs leading up to this. So if you think about all of the stuff that you and we've talked about on this show for a couple of years, wealth inequality, the rise of AI and technology and its impact on us, housing, education, healthcare. We talk about all these climate, race, and immigration stuff. These are big problems that our culture has failed to talk about and to deal with in healthy ways. So what the Democrats win? Is it going to change? Is anything going to be different? I think that this current generation of leaders, that's why I love Darya. That's why I'm so high on people like AOC. And I love the fact that Bernie's part of this too, as an old guy, older than me. But I see them saying, Mamdani saying, we have to deal with these things.
Yeah.
We can't keep kicking all of these cans down the road.
Yeah.
And that gives me hope. And I haven't been particularly hopeful lately.
Yeah.
You and I did a program a year ago on the demise of democracy.
That's right.
and we and I was not quite as far along as you are, but we saw this coming.
Yeah.
So are the Democrats who win these elections
here and abroad,
are they going to do it?
Exactly. Exactly.
And we need to.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Peter Griffin would say, that's what grinds our gears.
Who's Peter Griffin? I don't know him. I love that.
This is what grinds our gears. Because listen, I know this has been kind of a sizzle session, and I love it. This election cycle, locally, nationally, there's just been so much angst, anxiety, and emotion tied into all of these elections. And I think you heard the outpouring of that on this show today, and maybe we got a little more spirited than usual, but I think that is justified because it represents the political environment that you see around us today. And so you get a better understanding as to why, as I engaged in barbershop banter with Marc Blount years ago, and he became that to me, and I'm thinking, this guy always sends me away from the barbershop thinking, you see why he's sitting here next to me now. And as I engage with these conversations with Chuck in the religious world and then bringing these to coffee shops, you see why he's sitting next to me today as well. We just want people to be informed, and if anything else, pick up something that gets put down from time to time.
Absolutely. Informed and empowered to act on what they know is right.
That's right. That's right.
And that's one of the things we haven't done enough of.
That's right.
Hopefully inspired.
Yeah.
And one lesson that we do know, one person can make a difference. And it starts with you. And you can make a difference. And I think that's people like Darya, people like Vogel, people like Christina Rush and Andre Horton and whatever, they believe. Now, go with your beliefs, have faith, and do what we hope you can do.
Amen.
And that's all we can hope for right there.
That's right.
Well, that says it all, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, that's it for our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We ask you to tune in next time for more discussion and analysis with local and national guests about both local and national issues. I need you to remember that Next 2.0 streams on Fridays on all major podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, and on the fourth Sunday of the month at 4 p.m. on WQLN PBS NPR, just 91.3 FM on your dial. If you want to leave a message, comment, or suggestion for the show, you can call the Next hotline at 814-240-8816. I look forward to hearing from you. I am Marcus Atkinson. Come and listen to us again so that you can hear what's next for our communities and our democracy. Peace.